Welcome to today's tutorial, where we're diving into the art of building a nuclear microreactor in Stormworks. This compact reactor is designed to bring serious power to your creations, and today, I'll guide you through each step to make it both efficient and hot. So, let's gather our tools and get ready to bring this reactor to life. Alright, we've laid down our platform and a sturdy row of blocks, just enough to support the first key component, the boiler. Make sure to point the steam out part towards the left and the coolant A and B towards the bottom. Now, we're moving on to the core of our reactor, the nuclear fuel assemblies. We'll place 4 of these in a square configuration, the minimum setup needed to generate enough heat to keep our reactor hot enough for stable output. Carefully position each assembly, as building around them will only get trickier from here. When placing the assemblies, we're keeping them 1 block away from the boiler. This gap is crucial, as we'll need to get the steam out without blocking the port. We'll place a red block on the port, just as a reminder to keep it clear and avoid covering it with anything. Next, we're adding the nuclear control rod, positioned 3 blocks away from the end of our assembly parts. Just 1 will do for this setup. It's quite long, so we'll try to hide it later. But for now, let's get it in place. A few things to note. Yes, we're building it rather small, but it could be made even smaller. We could skip the boiler, and even the control rod. The entire system can technically be managed by attaching and releasing the rods at a specific temperature instead. But personally, I'm not a fan of the constant clicking sound that setup would make, so this design keeps it simple and a bit more quiet. Next up, the nuclear fuel rods. I'm placing 4 of them toward the back and using the cut tool to rotate them into position. Make sure the rods are aligned correctly. You can see the difference in the ends, and orientation here is essential. Make sure to align them on both the blue and red axis. Now that everything is aligned, we need a way to get the fuel rods into the nuclear assemblies. Let's add a compact linear track and base. There should be just enough room on the left side for this setup. After placing the track, make sure to merge it together, just like you see in the video. Now, let's test the first part. Set the maximum power on the compact linear track to 0%, move the creation closer to the workbench and then spawn it in. Oh, something isn't right. The rods have locked onto the assembly part before they're all properly inserted. The reason for this issue is that the default behavior of the assembly part is to lock as soon as it connects with a rod. This prevents our stack from falling all the way into position. Now, let's introduce the contact sensor. In short, it will send an on signal when pressed. We're placing it at the bottom, underneath our compact linear track. When the compact track base falls down, it will press down on the sensor. Now, we need the opposite behavior. We want the assembly rods to be released until they're in place. For this, we're going to use a NOT block. We'll connect the NOT block to the contact sensor and all 4 of our assemblies. This will ensure that the rods only release when the sensor is activated. Let's retest our setup. We should see the assembly rods releasing correctly as the compact linear track descends. Looks like they're working as intended. Wonderful. The rest should be fairly straightforward. Let's start by connecting some pipes and pumps to the boiler. We need something to utilize our hot water, and conveniently, we have one right here. To further optimize our build, we can add some heaters since we have the space. These heaters will efficiently warm our water to 120 degrees, well before our reactor can. This will speed up the process of heating the boiler, so why not take advantage of it? Now, getting all the pipes, pumps and ports to end up where they needed took a bit of time, but we got there. And don't worry if you got a bit lost with all the camera angles. The microreactor will be in the workshop by the time you see this video. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth tutorials like this. We're adding the last bit of piping for the steam out. I'll even add a touch of paint, red to indicate the hot side, and blue for the water inlet side. This will help keep everything clear and organized. We're now adding a fluid spawner, set to fresh water. We're also adding a liquid meter. This isn't strictly necessary right now, but if we want to make it refuelable in the future, it's handy to have a way to monitor our liquid levels. We've also added a temperature sensor and a radiation sensor. These will help us keep track of the reactor's performance and safety. We're adding port windows to both sides, primarily for aesthetics, but it's also nice to be able to see if all the parts are in place and if there's water present. And some more blocks to cover the sides. With that done, we should be close to ready for the logic parts to be added. I'm going to place all the logic blocks in the empty space at the front. We have some unused space there, and it should be enough for what we need. I've added a threshold gate and connected it to all of our heaters. We'll set them to check for a specific water temperature, turning on until the water reaches about 135 degrees. I think that's a bit too high, but we can adjust it later. Hopefully, this will heat the water a bit faster and get our boiler running more efficiently as a result. We're also adding an instrument panel to monitor our water temperature, rod temperature, radiation levels, and rod insertion. We'll be using a pre-made instrument panel number reader we created. From there, it's all about setting channels and connecting input nodes. Let me know in the comments if you want more in-depth microcontroller tutorials. The last bit of logic we're going to need is a function block, which will control the insertion level based on the rod temperature. For a small setup like this, and since I want to run it as cool as possible, we'll need a large number. You can set it to x divided by 500 to start and then adjust from there. In the end, I ended up with a function, x divided by 3500. This gave me a reactor that holds a water temperature of approximately 195 degrees, with a fairly similar rod temperature. Now, why so low? Well, even though the rods have a very long lifespan, they do wear out over time. The hotter they are, the quicker they die. So, 190 degrees is more than enough to heat our boiler with a nice margin of error. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content like this. Your support helps me create more in-depth tutorials and builds. See you in the next video.